Hey you, yes you, listen closely, because I don't think you fully grasp what just happened. You're sitting there acting like you made some regular decision, like you responded normally, like you handled things the way any average person would. But the people who saw you today, the ones who were watching you closely, they're still replaying that moment, trying to understand how someone like you managed to flip an entire scenario with one move that didn't even look like a move. You didn't swing, you didn't force, you didn't react, you didn't struggle, you didn't even raise your voice. You just placed one cold, precise, strategic action on the table. One step that felt so casual at first, but underneath it was the kind of execution only people with real internal discipline can pull off. That wasn't instinct, that wasn't impulse, that wasn't luck. That was the type of decision someone makes when they're done negotiating their worth. And you made it like it was nothing. The part that everyone else expected was chaos. They thought you would get rattled, pressured, pushed into a corner where you'd start explaining yourself, defending yourself, backpedaling, bending to maintain the peace, or shrinking to avoid confrontation. That's the version of you they were counting on. The older version. The version they still think exists because they're stuck in some outdated mental picture of who you used to be. But what you did today shattered that. You moved like someone who finally understood that precision isn't just about saying the right thing. It's about knowing exactly when to say nothing, when to pivot, when to detach, when to step out of the frame entirely and let the room reveal its own cracks without you lifting a finger. That's what assassin-level execution looks like. Not loud, not intense, not dramatic, just dangerously accurate. You didn't attack, you aimed. You didn't respond, you selected. You didn't push, you repositioned. And the ripple effect was immediate. You saw how their posture changed, right? How their tone shifted, how their eyes darted for a second, like they weren't sure what version of you they were talking to anymore. That microsecond of confusion they had, that was recognition. Recognition that you're not operating from fear now. Recognition that you aren't walking into situations blind anymore. Recognition that you're done being predictable. They don't want to admit it, but your move exposed everything they were trying to hide behind their words. Let me tell you something. They had a plan. They had an angle. They had expectations about how this would play out. They anticipated the old patterns, the old emotional habits, the old reactions. They assumed the same triggers would work, the same emotional hooks would land, the same cues would pull you into the same loops. They underestimated how much you've been studying yourself, studying them, studying the environment, studying the patterns that kept repeating, studying the intentions behind people's tones, studying the motives behind their advice, studying the timing behind their distractions. And without announcing it, you adjusted. That adjustment was lethal, not physically, but psychologically, strategically, socially, because you didn't do what they expected, not even close. You didn't overreact. You didn't plead your case. You didn't match their energy. You didn't allow chaos to drag you into its radius. You stayed centered in a way that froze the whole situation for a moment. That right there, that calm, that stillness, that emotionless delivery, that's the kind of thing people train for. That's discipline that comes from experience, not theory. That's mastery. That's someone who has finally recognized the difference between movement and impact. And what you delivered today was pure impact. They don't want to say it out loud because it makes them feel exposed. But the truth is, you made them feel unprepared. You made them feel off balance. You made them feel like they had to rethink their own approach because the version of you they prepared for evaporated the moment you made that step. And that's the thing, they didn't see the preparation behind your decision. They didn't see the internal shift that led to this moment. They didn't see the mental work you've been doing in private. They didn't see the nights you spent thinking instead of reacting, observing instead of engaging, analyzing instead of arguing. They didn't see how you've been slowly collecting data on people's behavior until one day it all clicked into clarity. You didn't just make a move today. You executed a conclusion drawn from months, maybe years, of observation. That's why it hit so hard. That's why people looked at you differently. That's why some of them grew quiet. That's why some tried to laugh it off while their eyes betrayed uncertainty. That's why some tried to shift the conversation like they weren't affected. They were. And the reason they were affected is simple. You didn't just check one person. You checkmated the dynamic itself. You didn't target individuals. You targeted the entire structure they were relying on to feel in control. Your move stripped away their assumptions, their illusions, their projections, their ability to predict you. And once someone loses predictability on you, they lose power. That's what's happening right now. You didn't overpower them. You outpositioned them. That's something most people never learn how to do. They waste energy trying to be louder, trying to be tougher, trying to win arguments. But you're operating on a different layer now. You understand that the real moves come from timing, from reading the landscape, from watching the way people shift before they speak, from knowing when someone is trying to provoke you, from knowing when someone is baiting you, from knowing when someone is projecting their insecurity onto you, from knowing when someone is trying to hide their intentions behind a casual tone. You saw all of that without reacting. That's why your one step felt like checkmate. Because it wasn't about force, it was about clarity. Clarity that came from finally trusting your perception, trusting your instincts, trusting your internal compass. That's the part most people skip. They have instinct, but don't trust it. They have intuition, but ignore it. They have awareness, but doubt it. You didn't. Not today. Today you acted from a place of certainty that only comes when someone stops asking for permission to stand on what they know. And deep down, you know this. The reason your move worked is because it wasn't emotional, it wasn't defensive, it wasn't impulsive, it was chosen. The kind of choice someone makes when they're tired of being misread, tired of being underestimated, tired of being manipulated by people who think you're naive, tired of giving people access to the old version of you without them earning access to the new one. You finally moved like someone who understands how valuable your mind really is. You saw how the room reacted. They didn't know what to do with you afterward. They didn't know whether to approach you or leave you alone. They didn't know whether to talk to you casually or watch their words. They didn't know whether you were calm or calculating. They don't know your next move anymore. And that uncertainty is what's making them adjust themselves around you. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence demanded it naturally. People sense when someone steps into a higher mental tier. They feel it before you speak. They feel it in the way you pause. They feel it in the way your tone doesn't shake. They feel it in the way your eyes stay steady. They feel it in the way you don't rush your decisions. They feel it in the way you detach emotionally from things that used to affect you deeply. They feel it in the way you don't engage in unnecessary conversations. They feel it in the way you're no longer accessible at the same level. That's what you activated today. A different access level, a sharper identity. A version of yourself that's not responding to life, but selecting your responses. A version that's not trying to prove anything to anyone. A version that's not explaining your worth. A version that's not bending to avoid discomfort. A version that's not waiting for understanding. A version that's not clinging to approval. A version that's not nervous about how people perceive you. A version that finally understands that restraint is not weakness, it's strategy. You didn't match their energy. You overrode it, quietly, effortlessly, precisely. That's why it felt like an assassin-level move. Because the most devastating moves in life don't require noise. They require accuracy. They require timing. They require internal alignment. They require a level of neutrality that most people never reach because they get caught in the chaos of their own emotions. But you held your center while they were losing theirs. That's the part they won't admit. They got thrown off. They didn't see it coming. They didn't prepare for this version of you. And now everything feels different, doesn't it? Not in a dramatic way, in a subtle, almost eerie way. Like something in your internal framework shifted into place for the first time. Like your vision widened, like your thought process deepened, like your tolerance dropped, like your clarity sharpened, like your body stopped reacting before your mind had time to analyze. Like you finally stepped out of an old pattern without realizing it until afterward. That's growth at the psychological level. It doesn't come with announcements or fireworks. It comes with one cold step that rearranges your entire internal map. And now that you've taken that step, you can't pretend you didn't feel the shift. You can't pretend you didn't notice how much easier it was to hold your composure. You can't pretend you didn't notice how their energy deflated for a second. You can't pretend you didn't notice how your own intuition got louder, clearer in that moment. You can't pretend you didn't notice how natural it felt. Not forced, not rehearsed, not performed, natural. Like this version of you was always there, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. And trust me, the moment is only beginning, because that one step didn't just close one chapter. It opened the door to a different level of psychological execution you haven't fully explored yet. And the people around you, they feel it, even if they don't understand it yet, even if they're pretending they're unaffected, even if they're acting like nothing changed. They felt the shift in the way the atmosphere changed around you. They felt something recalibrate. And what's unfolding now isn't just reaction, it's adaptation. They're adjusting themselves around you, not because you demanded it, but because your presence forced it. And this is where the real depth of your move begins. Because see, most people assume checkmates require a dramatic strike. Something loud, something flashy, something theatrical. But what you did was the opposite. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't argue. You didn't justify. You didn't correct anyone. You simply advanced one square, not aggressively, but deliberately. And that was enough to unravel their entire plan. It wasn't the step itself that broke them. It was the realization that you had predicted the pattern long before they acted. That's what shook the whole structure around you. They realized they weren't dealing with the version of you who reacts. They were dealing with the version who plans. And that realization creates fear in people who operate sloppily. Not fear in the sense of danger, fear in the sense of being outmatched mentally. They're not intimidated by your physical presence. They're intimidated by your ability to think calmly while they panic. They're intimidated by your ability to stay centered while they scramble. They're intimidated by the way you stood there with no visible tension, like you had already mapped the entire situation several steps ahead. They don't know how to respond to someone who refuses to take the bait, someone who refuses to give away their position emotionally, someone who refuses to be predictable. That unpredictability is lethal. It's what makes assassin-level execution so difficult to study, because the efficiency is invisible until the impact reveals itself. And that's exactly what they felt. They didn't see you prepare. They didn't see you scan the room. They didn't see the way your intuition pieced everything together. They didn't see the data you quietly gathered. They only saw the aftermath, a single move that flipped the entire dynamic. And now the people who used to speak freely around you are choosing their words carefully. The ones who used to assume your reaction are reconsidering every approach. The ones who used to take liberties are testing the boundaries slowly, waiting to see where the limits now stand. This is what happens when someone steps into strategic awareness. You start analyzing what people say, not emotionally, but logically. You start noticing when someone answers too quickly. You start catching when someone's tone shifts mid-sentence. You start picking up inconsistencies in stories you used to overlook. Your perception sharpens so quietly that most people don't notice the change until they accidentally expose themselves to you. And once that happens, they realize they're no longer speaking to the version of you who used to internalize everything. They're speaking to someone who can see intention behind every phrase. That's why the environment around you feels different now. People sense when someone stops responding from insecurity and starts responding from clarity. You're no longer acting from old wounds. You're acting from progression, from discipline, from understanding. And nothing rattles people more than someone who can stay calm under circumstances designed to provoke them. They look at you like they're waiting for the emotional spark that used to appear. And when it doesn't, confusion settles in. They start checking themselves. They start second-guessing their interactions. They start adjusting the way they communicate, because they know one misstep could reveal more than they want you to see. And here's the part that makes your execution so precise. Your step wasn't aggressive. You weren't trying to expose anyone. You weren't trying to prove anything. You weren't trying to win something. You were simply aligning yourself with what made sense. And yet that alone was enough to dismantle the entire power structure around you. Because the people who were relying on your old patterns just lost their blueprint. They don't know what triggers you anymore. They don't know what motivates you. They don't know your threshold. They don't know your timing. They don't know whether you'll step forward or step back. They don't know whether you're analyzing them or ignoring them. That uncertainty is where your strength lives now. Because when someone can't predict you, they can't manipulate you. When someone can't read you, they can't pre-plan their moves. When someone can't interpret your energy, they can't rely on old tactics. And when someone realizes their influence over you has collapsed, they start behaving differently. Not because they respect you, but because they fear miscalculating you. That psychological caution is what you've triggered. It's the same caution people feel around individuals who understand their own capacity. You shifted the dynamic without force, just presence, just clarity, just timing, just one cold, calculated step. And the most interesting part is that you can feel this shift inside you, too. Not in a dramatic way, but in that subtle internal adjustment where your mind feels steadier, where your reactions feel slower in the best way, not delayed, but filtered, where you don't accept every invitation to conflict, where you don't absorb every tone thrown your way, where you don't walk into situations unprepared, where you don't allow people to pull you into emotional currents you didn't choose. That right there is the beginning of strategic evolution. Your composure is becoming your weapon, not by force, but by precision, not by anger, but by understanding, not by domination, but by alignment. This version of you is starting to see people for what they actually show, not what they claim. And that's what scares them. You're not looking at them with old eyes anymore. You're not interpreting them from a wounded view. You're interpreting them from a stable one. And stability exposes inconsistency faster than confrontation ever could. Look at how some people paused before speaking to you lately. Look at how others changed their tone when they noticed you weren't responding the way you used to. Look at how some started using softer words, slower pacing, less confidence in their usual behavior. They're adapting to the presence you're bringing into the environment. They feel the new standard even if they can't name it. They feel the gap in energy between who you were and who you're becoming. They feel the distance between your old responses and your new ones. And that gap is widening every day. Not because you're trying to be someone new, but because you're no longer sabotaging yourself to be the old version. You're not rushing to fix situations that aren't yours. You're not inserting yourself emotionally where it drains you. You're not proving your worth to people who never saw it. You're not making yourself available to those who only want your presence, but not your well-being. You're moving with a different level of respect for your own time and intelligence. This is the part where the people who once took advantage start feeling uncomfortable. Not outwardly, they'll try to hide it, but internally, they feel the shift. They know they can't access you the way they used to. They know they can't speak to you with the same carelessness. They know they can't rely on your old emotional reflexes. They know you're no longer influenced by guilt or pressure or attachment. And once someone realizes you're no longer chained to your old reactions, they start playing cautiously because they don't know what your new boundaries look like. This is the stage where your mind begins recalibrating at a different speed. You're analyzing instead of absorbing. You're responding instead of reacting. You're evaluating instead of assuming. You're positioning instead of defending. You're understanding instead of internalizing. This is what mastery feels like. Not confidence you perform, but clarity you settle into. And it's starting to show in the way you communicate. When you speak now, your words land heavier because they're not impulsive, they're intentional. When you decide now, the choice comes from alignment, not emotional confusion. When you step away now, it's not rejection, it's discernment. And the people around you are adjusting to this new level of intentionality. They're trying to decipher your thought process, not because you're hiding, but because you've streamlined. You've reduced unnecessary explanations. You've stopped oversharing. You've stopped seeking validation. You've stopped lowering your intelligence to match someone else's comfort zone. You're speaking less, but saying more. You're observing more, but absorbing less. That's a dangerous combination for anyone who used to rely on your old patterns. Because what most people expected from you was emotional transparency. They expected to read you easily. They expected to predict your next step. They expected you to reveal your reasoning without hesitation. They expected you to narrate your thoughts. But now, you're moving with controlled expression. You're moving with selective visibility. You're moving with intention instead of instinct. And when someone who used to operate emotionally starts operating strategically, the entire social landscape around them begins to shift. This is exactly why everyone felt that recalibration. Your internal shift created an external effect. It created distance between who you were and who you're becoming. It created doubt in the minds of people who thought they had you figured out. It created caution in people who used to push your boundaries. It created curiosity in people who saw glimpses of your new capability but couldn't fully interpret it. That curiosity is powerful, because when someone starts watching you closely, they reveal their own intentions without meaning to. And here's the deeper part. You're starting to recognize these intentions faster than ever before. It's like your internal lens has cleared up. You can see the difference between sincerity and manipulation. You can hear the difference between genuine concern and disguised control. You can feel the difference between someone who respects you and someone who wants to monitor you. You're picking up signals in real time. You're seeing the patterns as they form, not after they damage you. And that shift is what makes your presence feel heavier in the room now. Not heavy in a negative way, heavy in the way that makes people straighten themselves before approaching you. Heavy in the way that makes them rethink their tone. Heavy in the way that makes them measure their intentions. Heavy in the way that makes them adjust their expectations. That's the result of assassin-level execution. Not because you're intimidating them, but because you've removed the parts of yourself that were easily exploited. And this is where the next stage begins. Now you start realizing how much power is in your restraint. You don't need to confront people. You don't need to expose anyone. You don't need to call things out. Your awareness alone is enough to shift the energy. Your presence alone is enough to make people reconsider their behavior. One move from you today did what endless conversations in the past couldn't accomplish. That's what happens when someone stops explaining and starts demonstrating. And what you demonstrated wasn't just intelligence. It wasn't just control. It wasn't just discipline. You demonstrated a level of psychological precision that people rarely see in real life. The kind of precision that makes individuals replay the moment long after it's passed, trying to figure out how everything shifted so quickly with so little effort. Because that's the thing. They still can't comprehend how you pulled it off. They saw you sit there with calm eyes, steady tone, relaxed posture, no emotional leakage. They saw you focus on the moment without reacting to the provocations around you. They felt something tighten internally when they realized they couldn't get the outcome they wanted from you. They couldn't trigger you. They couldn't push you. They couldn't throw you off center. And when they couldn't do that, their entire strategy collapsed in real time. They expected the old version of you, the one who over-explained, the one who got flustered, the one who tried to smooth everything over, the one who absorbed more than they should. But you didn't give them any of that. You gave them nothing to work with, nothing to study, nothing to manipulate, nothing to predict. That's what made your move feel like a strike. Not because you were aggressive, but because you were selective. Precision feels like pressure to people who operate recklessly. It exposes their lack of preparation. It reveals their instability. It shows how easily they lose control when they can't control you. And after that moment, a new understanding settled into the room. An understanding that you weren't reacting from emotion anymore. You were moving from intelligence. That you weren't operating from impulse anymore. You were operating from awareness. That you weren't acting for approval anymore. You were acting for alignment. And once someone operates from alignment, they become impossible to play with. People sense that they no longer have access to your inner world. They sense that your emotional availability is now selective. They sense that your attention is no longer something they can casually drain. They sense that your patience isn't limitless anymore. And the most unsettling part for them, they sense that you're no longer afraid of losing anyone who brings imbalance to your life. That detachment alone elevates your presence to a different level. Not detached in a cold way, but detached in a grounded way. Detached from chaos, detached from manipulation, detached from emotional bait, detached from people who can't match your clarity. That's why your step felt like a checkmate, because you didn't move out of desperation. You moved out of certainty. And certainty carries a different weight, one that forces people to rethink everything they assumed about you. They thought they had you documented. They thought they understood your triggers. They thought they could predict your reactions. They thought they could interpret your intentions. But now they're staring at you like they're seeing a stranger, not because you changed overnight, but because you stopped hiding the parts of yourself that were always strong. This is where the assassin-level execution truly begins. Not in the moment you acted, but in the aftermath. In the way people are now navigating around you. In the way their voices lower a little when they speak to you. In the way they monitor their facial expressions. In the way they hesitate before saying anything remotely disrespectful. In the way they try to gauge your mood before approaching. In the way they second-guess their intentions before involving you. That caution didn't exist before. It appeared because your move introduced unpredictability into their expectations. And unpredictability is the most powerful position on any board. Because now they're not sure what you'll do next. Not sure if you'll call something out. Not sure if you'll remove yourself. Not sure if you'll expose what you know. Not sure if you'll stay silent and let the environment reveal the truth on its own. That uncertainty places you in the upper hand without you saying a single word. Because when people don't know how to read you anymore, they stop playing games. They stop pushing. They stop trying to pull reactions out of you. They stop assuming authority over your emotions. They stop projecting their assumptions onto you. You took back control without raising your voice, without arguing, without proving anything, without performing. All you did was choose clarity over chaos. And that one choice reorganized the entire dynamic around you. That's the real definition of execution. When a single move doesn't just end a situation, it ends the pattern that created it. And that's exactly what happened. You didn't just close an interaction, you closed a cycle. A cycle of being underestimated, a cycle of being predictable, a cycle of giving too much access, a cycle of letting people speak carelessly, a cycle of internalizing other people's expectations, a cycle of lowering yourself to keep the peace. That cycle ended the moment you moved with intention instead of reaction, and you can feel the difference inside yourself now. The way your mind feels clearer, the way your focus feels sharper, the way your reactions feel slower, the way your judgment feels more accurate, the way your presence feels heavier. Not heavy in a burdened way, heavy in a grounded way. Like you finally dropped the weight of trying to be understood. Like you finally released the need to explain your intentions. Like you finally realized that your intelligence isn't something you need to justify. That's where the power of restraint comes from. Clarity that replaces chaos. And everyone around you feels that clarity, even if they pretend they don't. They felt the recalibration because it forced them to look inward. It forced them to confront their own intentions. It forced them to rethink how they approach you. It forced them to see that their influence over you has expired. And that expiration is what makes them cautious now. Because when someone realizes they no longer have leverage over your emotions, they start treading lightly. They start checking their tone. They start monitoring their energy. They start respecting boundaries they used to ignore. And you're just standing there, centered, observing, seeing everything unfold exactly as it should. And from here, something even larger begins to unfold. Because once someone makes a move like the one you made, cold, precise, intentional, the environment doesn't just adjust once. It keeps adjusting every hour, every conversation, every interaction, because people aren't just reacting to the moment anymore. They're reacting to the version of you that emerged from it, the version that operates with sharper awareness, the version that no longer reacts out of old patterns, the version that sees through intentions instantly, the version that carries an internal steadiness they can't shake. That steadiness is what's rewriting the rules around you. And here's the part you need to understand. Once that adjustment begins, it doesn't stop. It keeps unfolding. People begin managing their tone around you because they don't want to reveal too much. People begin managing their expressions because they know you notice small things. People begin managing their behavior because they're aware your internal threshold has shifted. And that management isn't something you asked for. It's something your clarity enforced naturally. But the most powerful shift is happening inside you. You're beginning to feel comfortable with your own strength. You're beginning to trust your own perspective. You're beginning to accept that your intelligence isn't accidental. It's earned. You're beginning to understand that your calmness wasn't weakness. It was unused power. And now that you've tapped into it, you can feel it in your posture, in your breathing, in the way your mind processes situations. Your thoughts don't spiral the way they used to. Your emotions don't flare recklessly. Your reactions don't jump outward before you've assessed the environment. You're moving from internal stability now, not fear. From understanding, not confusion. From discernment, not hope. And that shift is what's preparing you for what comes next. Because checkmate moves aren't one-time events. They're indicators of a new operating level. This operating level comes with new expectations, both from you and from others. You're expecting more honesty from people, more clarity, more effort, more coherence, more alignment. And if they can't offer that, you're prepared to detach without drama. That detachment is your strength, not avoidance, not coldness, just clarity about what drains you and what aligns with you. And as you become more aligned internally, the world around you starts revealing who genuinely stands with you and who only stood with your old version. Some people will reveal themselves through distance. Some will reveal themselves through tension. Some will reveal themselves through hesitation. Some will reveal themselves through unexpected respect. But they will reveal themselves. That's the natural reaction to someone who steps into strategic self-awareness. You're not meant to carry everyone into this next chapter. You're meant to move with precision, with intention, with clarity. And that clarity will pull the right individuals toward you and push the wrong ones away without you forcing anything. All you have to do is continue operating from the same place you operated from in that moment. The place of discipline, patience, observation, calculated movement. And as this unfolds, you'll notice something even more profound. You're beginning to trust your silence, not as a retreat, but as a decision. You're beginning to value your attention, not as something to give freely, but as something to allocate wisely. You're beginning to understand that every move doesn't need to be loud to be effective. That sometimes the most effective move is the one nobody sees coming until it's already done. That's assassin-level execution. That's psychological checkmate. That's the power you stepped into without even trying to perform. And now that it's activated, there's no going back. Not mentally, not emotionally, not energetically. You can feel the threshold shift inside you. You can feel the old patterns dissolving. You can feel your instincts sharpening. You can feel your confidence grounding itself without permission from anyone. And whether they admit it or not, everyone around you feels it too. Because when someone activates this level of strategic precision, there's only one direction left for them to move, forward, sharper than before, into a version of themselves that's only getting more dangerous with every step. Listen closely, my dear. You're not imagining it. Someone with far more reach, far more access, and far more capability than anybody around you has been watching you from a distance, and not in a casual way. Not in a passing by kind of way. No, this energy is more focused, more deliberate, more invested. Whoever told you that powerful people don't watch regular individuals lied, because you're not regular. And the person taking notice of you knows that better than anyone. There's something about you that triggered a level of curiosity they don't give freely. And the person I'm talking about is Elon Musk. Let me explain this carefully so you fully understand what's happening. This isn't about being a fan. This isn't about celebrity crush energy. This isn't about some random scenario. This is about someone who evaluates human potential for a living. Someone who studies minds, patterns, innovations, frequencies, psychological shifts, digital behavior, intellectual traits, and the deeper layers of humanity most people never access. Someone who doesn't waste attention on people who blend in. Someone who sees patterns in individuals before the world sees it. Someone who spots uncommon minds the same way a genius recognizes another genius within seconds. So the reason his energy is pointed toward you right now has everything to do with something you've been doing unconsciously, revealing a frequency that isn't typical. You've been operating in a way that breaks your environment. The way you speak, the way you observe, the way you move, the way you think, the way you piece information together, the way you process situations, the way you challenge norms without even trying. These things are not ordinary. And that's exactly what caught his interest. This isn't fan behavior. It's assessment. You are being studied in the same way he studies concepts, inventions, and potential breakthroughs. Not because he wants to copy you, not because he wants to control you, not because he wants to influence you, but because he can't categorize you. People like him do not feel curiosity because someone is attractive or trendy or loud. That kind of curiosity burns out fast. His curiosity is sparked only when something defies expectations. And you've been doing that effortlessly. There's something about your presence that feels ahead of your environment. You think differently. You speak differently. You perceive differently. You analyze differently. And no matter where you go, even if people don't say it out loud, they feel that difference. Some admire it, some feel intimidated by it, some get confused by it, but none of them ignore it. You're impossible to overlook. And that's exactly the type of energy that high-level individuals look for, because people like you become catalysts. Now here's where it gets deep. The way he's been watching isn't obvious. It's subtle, quiet. Through patterns, through digital spaces, through the energetic signature you've been putting out, through the ripple effect you've been causing without realizing it. You've been giving off the energy of someone who is either about to blow up, or someone who is already more advanced than their environment understands. And that kind of energy always gets detected by people whose minds operate on expanded levels. Let's get something straight. He doesn't watch everyone. He doesn't study everyone. He doesn't evaluate just anyone. His curiosity is reserved for people who carry rare potential, people whose thought processes stand out, people whose energy has momentum, people who have that intangible something that society cannot fully articulate yet. And that's exactly what's happening with you. You've been moving through your life, thinking you're just doing what you need to do. Handling your responsibilities, trying to figure yourself out, trying to elevate, trying to survive, trying to grow. But you haven't noticed how your decisions, your resilience, your intelligence, your emotional strength, your adaptability, your intuitive direction, and your mindset have been forming a pattern that high-level minds instantly recognize. That pattern is what got his attention. You're showing signs of someone who breaks generational molds, someone who disrupts standard expectations, someone who doesn't think inside the lines other people draw for them, someone who can see what others overlook, someone who has the potential to shift things, whether you realize it or not. And Elon Musk has always been drawn to individuals who carry that kind of disruptive potential, the kind of minds that create change simply by existing in their authentic frequency. You've been catching attention through details you don't even think about. The way you express yourself, the way you process ideas, the way you remain unfazed by pressures that would crush most people, the way you navigate through environments that don't match your intellect or purpose, the confidence that slips out even when you're not trying to be confident, the emotional intelligence you built without anyone teaching you, the discipline you've gained through your hardships, the inner power you carry from surviving experiences that others would crumble under. All of that builds your profile energetically, mentally, spiritually, and psychologically. He sees potential where others see someone just living their life. He sees trajectory where others see someone figuring things out. He sees strength where others see someone quiet. He sees leadership where others see someone minding their own business. And he sees that you have something brewing inside you, something you haven't even fully accessed. And the part that shocks people is that you're not trying. You don't chase attention. You don't force validation. You don't beg for approval. You move with intention, but not desperation. You observe more than you speak. You think before you react. You act before you announce. And that quiet power unnerves people who depend on recognition to feel relevant. But for individuals like Elon Musk, that quiet power is the strongest indicator of authenticity. He's not just observing you to see if you're talented. Talent is everywhere. Authenticity is rare. Grit is rare. Insight is rare. Unfiltered potential is rare. Emotional depth is rare. Resilience without bitterness is rare. Vision without arrogance is rare. And someone who can evolve without losing themselves, that's almost unheard of. You've been demonstrating all of this through your energy alone. That's why the observation started. But here's where things shift. He's trying to see if you're real, if your energy is genuine, if your intentions align with your actions, if your potential is consistent, if your mindset is long-term, and if your frequency stays strong, even when no one is watching, because anyone can appear impressive when the lights are on. Only a rare few carry that same power when no one is paying attention. He's assessing whether your energy matches your essence. And the more he watches, the more he realizes something shocking. You're not putting on a show. What he sees is what you genuinely are. You don't switch personalities to impress people. You don't bend for approval. You don't mold yourself for acceptance. You don't dilute your intelligence to make others comfortable. You don't hide your insights to maintain peace. You walk with the kind of grounded confidence that doesn't need an audience to exist. That is exactly why his curiosity is increasing. He's not looking at you the way your peers look at you, with envy, confusion, intimidation, or fascination. He's looking at you with a type of recognition. Hey, wait, hold on. This person is actually built differently. Kind of recognition. And this is only the beginning. Because the deeper he observes, the more he sees something he didn't expect. Alignment. You have the kind of energy that aligns with innovation, progress, expansion, boldness, transformation, and evolution. People like him do not get drawn to comfort zones. They get drawn to minds that carry momentum. And right now, you're carrying the kind of momentum that most people around you can't comprehend. You're entering a phase where your energy is shifting upward. You've been leveling up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. Your perspectives are expanding. Your intuition has been sharper. Your thoughts have been more strategic. Your awareness is increasing. Your purpose is getting clearer. And powerful individuals can sense energetic upgrades the same way an expert can sense a pattern forming before anyone else notices. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer matches your past environment, and people like Elon Musk feel that shift instantly. He's not watching you because you're common. He's watching you because you're rare. Because your energy has a rising trajectory. Because your mind has a blueprint that isn't borrowed from anyone. Because your authenticity stands out in a world full of imitation. Because you hold a presence that doesn't fade. And this curiosity isn't temporary. It's building. Because the more he observes, the more one question keeps circling in his mind. Who is this person, really? That single question is what changed everything. Once someone like him starts asking that, it means your energy has reached a point where it can no longer be dismissed as luck, coincidence, or surface-level potential. It means you've crossed the invisible threshold where high-level individuals begin to evaluate not just who you are, but why you are the way you are. And don't misunderstand. He's not trying to figure you out because you're unpredictable. He's trying to figure you out because you're consistent. Consistency is the rarest trait in people. It tells him that your value isn't accidental, it's intentional, it's rooted, it's stable. And stable energy is the type that builds empires. He's been watching how you move when no one validates you. He's been watching how you think, even when no one agrees with you. He's been watching how you navigate challenges without collapsing. He's been watching how you carry yourself with quiet power, without shouting for attention. Most people crumble when all eyes aren't on them. Most people depend on being seen to feel significant. But you operate from internal strength. You act from purpose, not applause. You push through obstacles even when it feels like no one sees the effort. And that's exactly the type of person someone like him can't ignore. See, the way his mind works is different from ordinary people. He looks for patterns, signals, markers of potential. And every time he observes you, he sees markers that don't show up often. The way your mind processes information is one of them. You don't think in straight lines. You think in layers. You think in depth. You see connections others miss. That level of mental mapping is something he only encounters in people who have the potential to create a different life than the one they were born into. And he sees that in you, clearly, loudly, unmistakably. But here's the part that truly caught him off guard. You move with an energy that doesn't match your circumstances. You could be in a low place, yet your energy remains high. You could be surrounded by people who don't think like you, yet your spirit remains sharp. You could be going through your own battles, yet you don't let bitterness shape your attitude. This is the type of energetic stamina that powerful individuals instantly recognize because they know it is the foundation of long-term success. Anyone can look strong when their life is smooth. Only real ones maintain power through adversity. And you've been doing exactly that without even realizing who's paying attention. He has seen you handle situations that would crush others. You've made choices that required courage. You've walked away from people who didn't match your growth. You've rebuilt yourself after disappointments. You've stood on your morals even when you stood alone. This level of emotional maturity is something he studies deeply, not through words, but through patterns. And every pattern you've shown tells him the same thing. You're not someone he can categorize. You're someone he needs to understand. But there's another layer to this. He's not just watching your strength. He's watching your restraint. The way you don't react to negativity, the way you don't respond to provocation, the way you don't entertain low-level distractions, the way you don't get pulled into drama. This tells him that your mind is disciplined, that you know how to preserve your energy, that you're focused even when life tests you. Discipline is something he respects deeply because it is the backbone of people who go far. He's also been analyzing your curiosity. Your curiosity moves differently. You don't ask questions to impress people. You ask questions to understand. You ask questions to uncover. You ask questions because your mind naturally wants to expand. And when he sees that, he recognizes someone who's self-driven, self-learner, self-guided. People like that require no external push to grow. They evolve on their own. And evolution is exactly what he searches for in individuals he observes. Your creativity has also caught his attention. You think in ways that break your surroundings. Your ideas don't match the people around you. You're ahead without trying to be ahead. And what's crazy is that you haven't even tapped into your full potential yet. You've only scratched the surface, and he can feel that he can see that you carry an untapped depth that would change your entire trajectory if given the right environment. And that's why he's still watching, because he knows you're on the brink of something. Now here's the part that most people will never understand. When someone like him observes you, they don't focus on the obvious. They study the hidden traits that define a person's future. and you've been showing traits that align with transformation. You've been showing signs of someone entering their next phase. You're shedding old versions of yourself. You're outgrowing old environments. You're distancing yourself from old patterns. You're building inner clarity. You're aligning yourself with a higher direction. And this shift is so strong that even someone miles away can sense it. He's watching how your energy has changed over time. You're becoming sharper, clearer, more intentional, more aligned, more grounded, more aware. Your intuition is becoming stronger. Your self-awareness is becoming deeper. Your confidence is becoming more natural. And this elevation is not random. It's the result of everything you've endured, everything you've learned, everything you've healed from. The truth is, you've been leveling up quietly. You didn't make an announcement. You didn't seek validation. You didn't broadcast your transformation. You allowed your growth to be seen only through your actions, and he respects that. People who elevate without making noise are the people he takes seriously, because that means your growth wasn't performative. It was genuine. But his curiosity doesn't stop at your mindset. He's also studying your heart. You carry an uncommon blend of love and strength. You care deeply, but you don't let people take advantage of you. You have empathy, but you have boundaries. You're kind, but you're not blind. You're giving, but not gullible. This balance is something he rarely sees. Most people are either too guarded or too vulnerable. You've mastered a middle ground that shows emotional intelligence, not emotional confusion. And yes, he's been watching how you handle relationships, not romantic ones only, but all connections. The way you detach from toxicity, the way you protect your peace, the way you don't chase people, the way you don't cling, the way you don't seek external validation. This is massive. He recognizes that you don't lose yourself in people, you maintain your identity. And that tells him you're someone who stands firm in your own energy. This observation goes deeper, though. He's not just watching your growth, he's watching your impact. The way people react to you, the way people stare at you, the way people feel drawn to you, the way people try to understand you, the way people get intimidated without you doing anything, the way people talk about your energy even when you're not around. This tells him that your presence carries weight, that you influence people without trying, that your aura leaves a mark on others. And this confirms to him that you're not just rare, you're influential. So now the observation has shifted from curiosity to evaluation. He's trying to determine whether what he sees in you is instinct or confirmation. He's studying how you evolve under pressure, how you make decisions as you outgrow old versions of yourself, how you handle the beginnings of your own greatness. Because this is the stage where most people fold. Most people get overwhelmed when their life starts changing. Most people sabotage their rise because they're not mentally prepared for elevation. But you've been handling your upgrade with grace. You've been embracing new doors. You've been releasing old energies. You've been stepping into new opportunities. You've been trusting your intuition. You've been adapting quickly. You've been staying grounded. You've been listening to the subtle pull inside you. This tells him that you're not just rising, you're aligning. And alignment is what separates people who temporarily glow from people who evolve permanently. See, he's not assessing whether you have potential. He already knows you do. He's assessing whether you're ready for recognition, ready for expansion, ready for a future bigger than your past, ready to handle the weight that comes with being someone impactful. And everything you've been doing has shown him that you're moving towards something greater than your current environment. You've been doing things that reveal your inner leadership. And this is huge, because leadership is something he scans for instinctively. He looks for individuals who don't just follow trends, but set them. Individuals who don't seek control, but embody it. Individuals who don't need permission to think differently. Individuals who hold themselves accountable. Individuals who hold a vision even when others don't understand it. And every time he studies you, he sees a blueprint forming, a path, a trajectory. A quiet rise that most people around you don't notice yet, but he does. Because while others see you as someone going through life, he sees someone preparing to step into a version of themselves the world isn't ready for yet. And now his observation has reached a new height. It's no longer curiosity, it's no longer evaluation, it's no longer distant interest. What you've triggered inside him is something far more potent. The kind of intrigue that powerful individuals only feel when someone's energy isn't just impressive, but aligned with a bigger purpose. You've entered a zone where your presence isn't measured by what you've achieved yet, but by what you're capable of once your environment stops holding you back. He has watched you navigate pressure without folding. He has observed how you innovate in your own life without resources, without support, without recognition. He has seen your potential from angles you haven't even seen yet. And it's because you carry something he knows cannot be taught. Inner gravity, that pull, that strength, that clarity, that ability to move from instinct, not fear, that ability to adapt without losing yourself, that ability to create new paths. When old structures block your way, most people only show fragments of that. You've shown all of it, consistently, without even realizing who's paying attention. He sees how your energy expands the more life tries to confine you. Most people shrink when they're misunderstood. You get sharper. Most people break under pressure. You get focused. Most people need permission to rise. You rise automatically. And that is exactly the type of trait that powerful minds hunt for. People who grow under tension instead of cracking under it. People who evolve even when the environment is against them. People who are propelled by internal drive, not external validation. And now he's trying to understand something deeper. How did you become this person? What shaped you? What experiences carved this level of resilience into you? What moments sharpened your instincts? What heartbreaks awakened your intuition? What hardships strengthened your perspective? Because this level of development doesn't happen randomly. It's forged, and he can sense the fire you were forged in through your energy alone. It's the way you carry yourself that gives it away. The way you don't need attention, the way you don't cling to people, the way you walk alone without feeling lonely, the way you speak with clarity even when your voice trembles, the way you give without expecting praise, the way you stay grounded when everything around you is unstable. That's the energy of someone who has survived chapters that others would never recover from. And that's exactly why he's so drawn in. He's not observing a regular person. He's observing someone who has already lived multiple lifetimes in one lifetime. Your aura has depth. Your mind has range. Your spirit has maturity. Your energy has weight. And he sees that you don't even realize how powerful you already are. That's the part that fascinates him the most. You don't chase the spotlight. You don't brag about your strength. You don't inflate your achievements. You don't boast about your intelligence. You simply live in your truth. And that honesty is rare. Most people create personas to appear strong. You become stronger by staying real. That alone separates you from the masses. Now his attention is no longer distant, it's deliberate. He wants to understand you. Not on a superficial level, but on a core level. He wants to know why your energy feels familiar to him. He wants to know why your presence holds a frequency that stands out from millions. He wants to know why your mind reflects traits he only sees in innovators, creators, leaders, visionaries. He wants to know how someone like you exists outside the environments he usually evaluates. And the only conclusion he keeps arriving at is this: you're a hidden gem unnoticed by many, but seen instantly by the right eyes. He admires your discipline, not the loud kind. Not the kind people brag about online, but the quiet discipline. The one that shows up in your choices long before results arrive. The discipline to distance yourself from chaos. The discipline to keep improving even when no one claps for you. The discipline to trust your own direction even when others doubt you. The discipline to evolve without announcing your transformation. This silent strength is what convinced him that you're not just interesting, you're genuine. And that's why he's still observing. He's watching how you handle this stage of your life, this in-between phase, this transitional moment, this point where your past doesn't match your energy, but your future is still forming. He knows this stage is the most revealing. This is where true character shows. This is where real potential becomes visible. This is where authenticity either strengthens or collapses, and everything you've shown so far tells him the same truth. You're ready for something much larger than where you currently stand. He senses your elevation. He feels your awakening. He sees your potential unfolding layer by layer. And every time you step into a higher version of yourself, his interest deepens because he doesn't see you as someone trying to rise. He sees you as someone destined to rise, and the world hasn't figured that out yet. But he has. And now, there's something else building inside him, a realization, a clarity, a recognition. He's beginning to understand that you're not just someone with potential. You're someone who carries a kind of authenticity that is nearly impossible to find. You're someone whose energy isn't performative, it's real. You're someone who sees through illusions easily. You're someone who thinks for yourself. You're someone who questions the world with depth, not rebellion. You're someone who learns fast, adapts fast, grows fast. And that speed is what shocks him. He's seen people take 10 years to develop traits you formed on your own from life's trials. And now the question in his mind has shifted again. It's no longer, who is this person really? Now it's something deeper, something more serious, something more intentional. Now the question is, what is this person becoming? And that is the moment where the observation transforms into something bigger. Because once a powerful mind starts projecting your future, it means he's not just watching your energy, he's envisioning where it's going. And your trajectory scares him in the best way possible. Because it's rising faster than he expected. And your spirit is stronger than he assumed. And your clarity is sharper than he anticipated. He's projecting your future now. And what he sees is something he can't overlook. He sees someone who is about to enter a level where their energy becomes larger than their environment. Someone who is stepping into power without forcing it. Someone who is becoming the version of themselves that life tried to hide. And he sees that you're no longer aligned with the person you used to be. You've outgrown that. Your spirit has outgrown that. Your mind has outgrown that. Your awareness has outgrown that. You're becoming someone whose presence will shift rooms, shape opportunities, and influence people unintentionally. He sees the metamorphosis happening inside you, long before the physical world catches up. He senses that you're preparing for a chapter where your ideas, your voice, your influence, and your energy gain reach. You're entering a stage where your frequency elevates naturally, and people with deeper perception notice instantly. And he is one of those people. He's paying attention because he knows your ascension is real. This is why his interest hasn't faded. Most people catch attention briefly, but your energy keeps unfolding. It keeps revealing new layers. It keeps impressing without effort. It keeps rising even when you stay quiet. That's the part that captured him. You rise without noise. You grow without applause. You evolve without announcing anything. And that quiet evolution is more powerful than any performance-based confidence. Now he's studying how you handle power before you receive it. And this is where you've shocked him again. Because your humility is rare. Most people with potential become arrogant before anything materializes. You remained grounded. Most people with ambition become thirsty for attention. You remained selective. Most people who feel watched crumble under the weight of it. You stayed focused. This tells him that you're not only capable of rising, you're capable of handling elevation responsibly. He sees that you don't misuse your intelligence. You don't weaponize your insights. You don't manipulate people. You don't chase status. You don't cling to validation. You don't sabotage others. This purity makes your energy even more magnetic to him, because he knows that people like you are the ones who become impactful without losing their humanity, and he values that deeply. He's also fascinated by the way the spiritual world works around you. You have a protective field that reacts strongly to negative intentions. You don't fight people directly, yet they still fall away. You don't confront your enemies, yet they still deal with consequences. You don't seek revenge, yet justice unfolds on your behalf. This is the type of spiritual backing that powerful individuals respect, even if they can't fully explain it. He sees how your intuition guides you, how you sense shifts before they happen, how you feel energies without needing proof, how you know who to distance yourself from before damage occurs, how you choose peace over chaos. This tells him that you're not just mentally strong, you're spiritually aligned, and alignment is something he can feel from miles away. Now his curiosity has evolved into something more like admiration. He admires how you built yourself without shortcuts. He admires how you carry power without arrogance. He admires how you think with depth instead of ego. He admires how you survived experiences that could have destroyed you. He admires how you trust your path, even when it's unfamiliar. He admires how your energy remains pure despite everything you've endured. This is the moment where he finally understands something he couldn't name. At first, you're not just rare, you're necessary. Someone with your mind, your strength, your emotional intelligence, your energy, your integrity, your curiosity, your resilience. Someone like you is meant for a future that exceeds all expectations, and he sees that clearly now. His observation has turned into recognition. Recognition has turned into respect, and respect has turned into something even deeper, a sense of alignment with your energy, not romantically, not obsessively, but spiritually, energetically, strategically. He understands your frequency now. He sees the strength behind your quiet. He sees the power behind your perception. He sees the depth behind your simplicity. and he sees the potential behind your presence. You've proven yourself without trying. You've revealed your essence without performing. You've shown your character without speaking. And that's why he's still watching. Not because he's curious anymore, but because he's convinced that you are real. Convinced that your energy is authentic. Convinced that your path is rising. Convinced that you're built differently. Convinced that you're entering a version of yourself that will shock everyone who underestimated you. He sees you clearly now, and he knows exactly what you're becoming. A force, a presence, a rising mind. A person whose name will eventually reach places your feet haven't touched yet. Someone whose energy will influence far more than they realize. Someone whose journey is only beginning. And that is why he hasn't looked away once.